What's up, guys? Alessandro here, and welcome to another episode of Think TLT. We're going to do something a little bit different this week. I've got my mate Maddie Fairfax here today, and we're just going to be talking a little bit about the challenges and the things that we got out of our high schooling life and how we transitioned from being high schoolers into the things that we're doing now and how we adapted into real life. So, Matt, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, mate. First talk show I've ever been on, so be interesting. See how we go.
Yeah, so Matt is studying a Dean Scholar of Commerce at University of Wollongong.
Yep.
And he was at Marist College in Canberra with myself, college captain, and I think you always had a really good insight about where you wanted to go and what you wanted to do, but do you think that sort of changed like during your schooling experience and then moving forward into the real world?
Yeah, I think, I came from a property back sort of near Bungendore, and so when I was at school and sort of early on, I was pretty hell-bent that I knew what I was doing. I picked out my degree in sort of year 10. And that was the way I was going to go. I was just going to be doing agriculture, wanted to go back onto the farm, and then the more time that I spent out of school, and that first year that I took and I didn't go straight into uni, I just decided that I hadn't really been anywhere and I wanted to get out for a bit. And that first year absolutely changed the way I wanted to go. And I just, I landed in commerce, and I've found that is where I wanted to be, but that definitely came from having a year to step back and actually experience the real world and to get a better bearing for that transition from what you think in your expectations to what then becomes reality once you step out the front gates.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I know it's coming sort of to the end of another year, and so for a lot of you guys, you're going to be finishing year 10 or finishing year 11 or year 12 and being a bit unsure about what's to come and how to attack the next year of challenges and exciting, opportunities as well. I think people would love to hear from you, Matt. What are some things that, obviously you did get some perspective as you moved out of school, but in terms of while you were there, what were a couple of things that you did or that you implemented that really helped you have the best experience that you could possibly have had?
I think one of the big things was probably the fact that as a captaincy group, we were focused on a lot of things to do with a culture and making sure that it was something that was all-inclusive. I think that last year of school brings you together. I had a math class with 4 other boys, and they became some of my really close mates. And you start to treasure a lot of relationships and a lot of friendships, I think, that you make even in that sort of short period of time, because it's something that is a finite resource, and maybe that's what makes it, you treasure it a little bit more. But I think where we implemented, things like even just the war cries and getting all the boys to wear their budgies to the swimming carnival, and those sort of things that gave us all something in common and something that created memories. I think even now we're all doing 21st gifts, and we're more focused. It's more enjoyable to get something for someone that's an experience or a memory that you make than it is to get something that as it's tangible, it's a gift, but it doesn't create something that's as lasting as those memories. And they're honestly the things that you realize almost immediately after you walk out the gate are the most precious part about that time that we're at school. So yeah, anything that aids those memories and those experiences are the biggest things to treasure and to get involved with, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even just looking back, you have those like of all the things that happen, they're the things that you are thinking about, and the things that you look back on and that you treasure the most are those memories that you have. And obviously it's part of a bigger system, but I think it is important to focus on those things, and not get too caught up with a lot of the other things that are happening all the time.
Yeah, well, they're things to have in common, I think, and that's the big thing with Marist in general, and then what that becomes when you run into old boys is that it's something that you have in common with them and you can really connect with them about. And the more memories and the more experiences you have and that you want to be involved with, the more that it creates that common ground when you run into blokes down the track. They're the sort of things that bring you back together. And I think I've found that the blokes and the people that I've stayed close to are the people that you made the effort to have that common ground with, because when you come back together, and it is one of the most fantastic parts about putting in the work and at any time to friendships, is when you come back and you've got that common ground. It doesn't matter if it's 2 days or 2 years that you haven't seen some people. It's like you've never left.
Yeah.
You just pick up when you left off. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like, obviously we went to an all-boys school, but I don't think that that's a product of that environment. Like, we put effort, I know you did as well, we put effort into relationships with friends from other schools, boys, girls, just people around, and that is how we sort of found even more people with common ground. And I think putting in that extra effort to go beyond your school as well is something that's going to help you to be more well-rounded, because obviously not all of you guys watching go to an all-boys school or an all-girls school. You go to co-ed education. We've all got different aspirations, different goals, and so I think it's important to look out for the people that do align with the things that you are doing and the things that you're interested in and passionate about.
Yeah, and I mean, the people, it shouldn't be a scary thing to feel like the people that you're really close friends with now, that there's an expectation that you're always going to be close with them. You know, I think it's a great thing that you can drift in and out of people's lives. There's people who and that's, I think, potentially a scary thing, is that you might not align with the same people outside of school that you did while you were at school. Yeah. It can be sort of surprising, the people that you become close with. I think even across the course of school, you feel like you move between groups, and by year 12, you're sort of settling with those people that you connect with beyond school. But I don't think it's a bad thing or something to be overwhelmed or unhappy about the fact that you drift from certain people. I think at the end of the day, you mostly will gravitate and you'll find yourself putting in the energy and the effort to align with people that you have that common ground with. So it's not a bad thing to feel like there's differences and that you drift. And most of the time, if you have that common ground, the people that you really want to stay true to won't ever be too far away from you, wherever you sort of end up. So
yeah, no, exactly. And I think I do agree. I think in hindsight and looking back, I think that the relationships and the experiences were the thing that I cherished the most. But obviously in that moment and being there was obviously the pursuit of the goals of schooling, you know, doing the work, getting through and creating as many opportunities, I guess, for ourselves as we possibly could moving forward. And how would you, like, what sort of things worked really well for you in terms of positioning yourself for after school, and what sort of things have actually has your perspective really shifted on in terms of its level of importance, or how much of an effect it has on you now?
Well, I think when I had a really interesting moment when I went in on the day that you go and get your ATAR. You go in, you sit down, and you get with the head teacher, whoever it is, and they tell you what your ATAR was and what subjects count and things like that. And when I went in, I was sitting with another bloke, and he was sitting there, and his knees are bouncing up and down, and he's really nervous. And I said, "Oh, how are you feeling about it all?" And he said, "Oh, like, incredibly nervous." And I said, "Oh, why is that?" And he said, "Oh, aren't you nervous because it's 2 years, it's your whole of your senior schooling is coming down to one number." And I thought it was a really interesting comment, because it's something that is built up obviously by schools. They want to see their students do well. Universities put it as the prerequisite to get into your courses. There's a lot of pressure around that one number, but I think that comment potentially shows that you missed the mark in some ways. I think that if you feel like your senior school experience is going to be defined by your ATAR number, then you've missed so many other parts. Yes. The experiences, the mates, the memories, the soft skills of actually of engaging in all that other co-curricular stuff that actually give you skills that aren't measured on your assessments and your final exams are equally, if not more important than feeling like all these experiences are just sucked down into one number, and that should dictate how you felt about 2 years of school.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of perspective, really. It's how you measure the success and what you enjoy, and like how you measure the success of the experience. And if you are going to focus on that one number, then that is what you're going to end up getting out of it. But if you do take the opportunities that you have and engage with others and be involved, I think it can be so much more than that. And I don't know, I think that's something that schools really could work on. I think they have definitely improved, but just making people feel like they should be doing subjects and doing things because they want to do them, not because they think it's going to get them a better ATAR. And that's something that I sort of think I struggled with. I could have done potentially subjects that I enjoyed more. I loved the subject that I did do, but I think having an emphasis on you guys actually picking the things that you really enjoy and focusing on them, and then using that as a path to follow, the results will then be a direct result of that. They'll sort of speak for themselves. I don't think that the results should be the means to the end.
And I think it feeds on itself, that idea of doing something you love will inevitably, I know there's all the talk about what scales well, and that is a part of it. I think it shouldn't be discredited. You've got to focus on those on subjects that
are going to help you do well.
Yeah, exactly.
Help you get to where you want to go.
And when doing well is a driving force and it's something that you want to do, then you'll put the work in for those subjects. And I think equally, when you get to subjects that you enjoy, then you end up doing, and you'll end up getting the same amount out of those courses because you're willing to do the work. It doesn't matter what aspect. That applies in so many aspects, that if you enjoy what you do, then it doesn't become work anymore. It becomes something that you're enjoying, you're looking forward to. And that's really, it's so important to feel like you're enjoying your work. They shouldn't be two mutually exclusive things. You work and you do things that you enjoy. There's definitely a balance. And I think at school, having at least one or two subjects that you enjoy working hard at, because you see the improvements, you see that you're building skills that you enjoy, is where that crossover comes, where you find that really good balance.
Yeah, and I know you had a very different experience coming out of school, where you did take a year off to reflect, and I'll get you to just talk a little bit about the sort of things that you did and how that affected you. But I feel like there's so much emphasis on just timelines to get things done, and to be able to do something by a certain time, a certain way, when once you sort of get out of school, you have the opportunity to actually do things at your own pace and do things that you enjoy and do them in the way that you, or learn things and do things in the way that you, or works best for you. So
Yeah,
I know I went straight to
absolutely.
uni because that's just the type of person I was. I wanted to get straight into it, and I've got a long degree and all of that, but I'd love to hear about sort of your experience and how it was so very different, and how there are so many positives and benefits just to finding what works for you and not conforming to what the status quo is or what everybody else is doing.
Yeah. So when I came out of school, I was tossing up going straight to uni. I felt like I probably had it pretty well mapped out. I knew where I was going. But I hadn't. I've been down to Melbourne once for the tennis, and apart from that, I'd never been outside New South Wales. I'd never. I think maybe just from being at the farm, that was kind of my version of travelling when I was young. That was where we went. I got so much out of growing up out there. The one thing I didn't get was the travel, but I got so many other great experiences from growing up there. And I went down with my old man to my godfather's, who was down on the coast, and they said, "Oh, we've been up north, we've been out west, and there's plenty of work sort of when you go." And I thought, well, if I can pick up work along the way, and I might as well work as I go, because that'll just keep me afloat. I won't feel like I'm burning through all my savings and that. And I'll still see so much sort of as I go. I literally, pretty well, I went out one week, I bought a swag, I said goodbye to mum, I got in the car and I left. Like I just went. I took off, I went up and worked on a station in the middle, if you drew a line from Townsville to Mount Isa, and put a dot somewhere in about the middle of that. I went and worked completely off the grid
So
there.
where's that? Middle of Queensland?
Yeah, a little place called Julia Creek up there. I was on, and I just threw it up on a Facebook page for a bit of station work as I went. I had no idea where I was going. And I think that's what fueled me, and it's something ever since I got in that car and left, and when I came home, I was so adamant that I wanted to hold on to that independence. That feeling of going, all right, and especially you really start to feel it when you're in the middle of nowhere, when it's another 200 k's to the next town, and if you run out of fuel, or if you're on the side of the road, there's no mum and dad to come and pick you up, there's no help, you might not even have reception. You've got to be so self-sufficient, you've got to start working them out, all the problems, anything that you're going to run into. And I think to embrace that and to go, this is the first time that it's on me now. And if I fall over, I think that was the one thing that I had to really stick true to, because when I went to the West, when I had my time up in Queensland, I really enjoyed it. It was a really great time, and I met so many great people. And when I went to the West, I didn't probably get looked after as well as I probably could have, but I said before I left, I just had to be really true to the fact that if I fell over, or if I failed, or I screwed something up, that there was no expectations, there's no responsibilities on me, so I could really just pick up and learn from it, and be really just embrace the fact that if I failed something, that was okay, and keep going. And it served me so well to not only have probably had the experience up north where things worked out and where I did sort of solve a lot of those challenges, it gave me a lot of confidence, but also to have gone to the West for things have not really worked out too well, to have been treated not great by a boss, and it's just part of life, and you learn so much from those experiences. I think either way.
Yeah, and I think especially for you guys who might be in high school or even just starting off, I think there is a huge emphasis on like passing or failing, and I think that it's not a black and white thing. You've got this grey spectrum, and like it's okay to fail and it's okay for things to not go well. And so regardless of whether you're the type of person that has never failed and things usually go right, or you're on the other side where things aren't quite going well and you just feel like it's just hopeless and you just can't seem to get the formula right, I think it's important to like remember that it is a process, and it's a process of developing and learning, and it's not just you either do something or you didn't do it, pack up your stuff, throw in the towel and go and try something else.
Yeah, exactly. I think you need to give yourself the room to fail. You need to feel like it's the outcome is something that you're going to try and take something out of, regardless of what happens, that you're going to go, right, what can I take from that?
Yeah.
Because I think the people that go further, or when you get into the workplace, or when you get into those real world situations where it doesn't matter about pass or fail, that bosses won't, I don't think, or from my experience, the best bosses aren't looking for the pass or fail. They're looking for the people who adapt, who see what they need to improve on, and who are really happy to see people fail because they go, all right, well, I'm going to show you how to do this right. And if you're, again, it comes back to if you're passionate and if you enjoy what you do, then you'll give yourself the room to fail, because it means that you're working hard at it and you're improving it. The only way to improve is if you're doing things wrong, so you've got areas that you can get better at. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like, especially as a high schooler, I think I definitely struggled with that, because I did put a lot of pressure on myself to do everything that I did well, because it didn't occur to me that was an option. And I think now, over the last few years, doing things that are more difficult, where failure has become so much more prominent, I've started to appreciate all of the benefits actually that come out of failure. Because the way I see it now is that actually, if I'm failing, that means I'm on the frontier of my ability and my capacity of what I'm doing. I'm just doing the best possible thing that I could. If I was just doing well at everything I was doing, I wouldn't be working to my potential. And I think that's something that I really did struggle with at school, because I didn't want to be seen. Not even that I didn't want to be seen as someone who failed, I just didn't want to have to deal with that. And I think that there is a lot of pressure for people in school to do well. It's always well-intentioned, but I think people do really feel that sense of pressure, especially at school.
Yeah, I think it comes from a lot of places, and it's not, pressure's not the worst thing either. You know, it can, you get your assignment done on the last evening and things like that. It can spur you on to get things done, and a lot of the time you find that you do more, or you get bigger amounts of work done when there is that pressure on. People work to be in those sort of high pressure environments. But I think it's all, again, it just comes back to a matter of perspective. It's a matter of making sure that you put the pressure on yourself in the areas that really count, in the areas, I probably put the most pressure on myself now to stay in touch with people. It's something that really is important to me, and I go, it's really easy to go a couple of days or for things, whether it's friends or whether it's even just parents, when you move away, it can be really easy to get into the what have I got to do today mentality. And it's really, really easy for time to go by and then to go, oh God, I haven't picked up the phone, I haven't sent that person a message. And that's all it takes. You know, it's the time that you could have spent on all the other things that we end up spending to waste a bit of time, that you just go, that's where I want to put the pressure on myself. That's where I have the drive, and it is where it's an area that you really want to do well in, and so that drives you to improve and to make sure putting that pressure on yourself is really positive, because the results that you get from that are monumental. Just looking after a relationship is just so endlessly rewarding, I think.
And I think you also come to find that while putting all that time into those relationships is rewarding and is like intrinsically, it is also a really important part of professional life as well, along with learning and doing well in the knowledge and the curriculum that you're studying. Being able to actually not only convey and communicate but implement these things with other people and work with other people is also a skill that is now starting to creep in a little bit more at schools, and I think people are definitely working a lot harder to implement that, teachers and so on. But that's also incredibly important and a part of your education as well, and it's something that shouldn't be discredited or forgotten about, because we're in the real world with real people. And
yeah, I think it's really interesting, people with something as simple as picking groups. When you're at high school and or even at university, you have teachers and tutors that put you in groups, and you have tutors that let you choose groups. And obviously one's more enjoyable than the other, but I think it's actually, at the end of the day, as much as it sucks, it's really important to have the times that you get put in a group with someone who doesn't pull their weight, and you get put in the groups with the people that you don't know and that you need to adapt to, and you need to feel like you're outside your comfort zone, because at the end of the day, that's what a workplace is. You don't get to choose everyone when you start out and when you go to work in a place, you don't get to choose everyone who's on for your shift at the bar. You don't get to choose everyone who's going to be in the office every day. You've got to be willing to go, yes, I'm going to get along with people. Yes, there's going to be people who don't pull their weight. Yes, there's people I don't like. You've got to be able to put aside the fact that you don't enjoy that.
it was actually pretty close.
Is it the 7th? Oh, it only says the 6th. I feel like it's the 7th.
It's the 7th. It's the 7th. 7th of November. I was actually counting forward the days from when we graduated, which I think was the 4th of November, sometime around then.
Yeah, I think it would have been that 3 years now.
Yeah, it's been just over 1,000 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So in terms of things that you now look back on, or things that happened or that you were a part of while you were at school, what are some things that are no longer a part of your life now, or things that are very specific to school that you look back on and think, I really enjoyed that, or maybe even I could have enjoyed that more, or put more time into that, or spent more time doing that, but you just sort of felt caught up or doing other things, prioritizing other things?
I think one thing I've found maybe as well through the COVID period at the moment as well, and just from going from being a first year on campus with everyone there, is you lose the ability to interact with other people when neither of you organised to be in the same place at the same time. They were interactions with mates that didn't require either of you to put effort into meeting up. And I don't for a second regret the fact that after school, that friendship group really, it is quality over quantity. At the end of the day, the relationships that you want to maintain, and especially when you're coming back, when you move away, when I come back, there's a set amount of people, and I see the same few people every time.
Well, because finite time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's mates and there's family that you have to be back for, and spending 20 minutes with 30 or 40 people, you get no value, and you don't give any value to them either. Spending an hour or a couple of hours with mum and spending a couple of hours with mates, those same core mates, and feeling like you're getting the same amount of effort put back, is where that friendship, that big group of mates really does. It just shrinks down almost overnight to a really small number of people. But especially now, because of COVID, all the events I found up in Wollongong, the places that you went, I'll run into them out at a music festival, or out when we go for dinner or something like that. They don't happen anymore, and it does. It takes effort for one of you to say, let's meet up, let's make the effort to be in the same spot. And school is exactly that. School is that every day. It is no effort. It is everyone in the same spot. You don't have to say, let's all be, in English class together at 9 o'clock. They're there. It is such a... Those meetups are fantastic. You love running into people, you love bumping into people, and the school halls are exactly that. They let you run into all these fantastic people and all the mates from that year that you've spent all that time with. It's like those dinner events, those music festival events every day. Yeah. And they take no effort. And while I don't regret the fact that after school, because they don't exist anymore, I've now shrunk down. I do ideally miss those events in general now. I think especially with the current climate of meeting up and the running into mates is such a thing that we take for granted, but is so valuable, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the greatest thing about that is having all those people there is that each person is going to find in that big group of people their couple of mates that they're going to move forward with after school, and everyone is going to have their select few, and it's not always going to be it's not like everyone's going to have the exact same friends, but everyone has an opportunity to meet all of these people and to find who they truly connect with and truly want to spend more time with, even when that time does have to be created as opposed to just having it given to you.
Yeah, and again, I think it's one of those things that you'll find with the mates that you hang out with now and that you spend the time with, where you'll see really quickly the people where you make time beyond those chance meetings are the ones that you should try and continue to make the time for. And I think the really easy way to do that is to feel that you're both. I find with almost everyone that I'm really close mates with now, you could almost, if you wanted to put a tally up of the times that I've sent out a message and said, I'm back in town, let's catch up, there'd be another message on the other side from them saying, hey mate, how you going? Just wanted to check in, just wanted to give you a call and say g'day. Yeah. There's effort on both sides. And whenever whatever kind of relationship it is, whether it's, with a girlfriend, with your mates, and the beautiful thing about family is that it's almost a prerequisite. It's just always there, but those tallies are equal are where you have the most value and where you don't ever want to let it fall lopsided either way. So.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting to sort of look back on the past sort of half an hour and the things that we've sort of been drawn to talking about and the things we've really focused on, even when we've started at a point that does have to do with the what or the why or the what or the how, really.
Yeah.
But it's always sort of driven more towards the why and the who, in terms of how you measure the success of the things that we did looking back on it. It's never about what we were doing or how we were doing it. It was all about why we were doing it and who we were doing it with.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think they're long-lasting things. They're things that give us, everyone in all all facets of life, you're looking for things that give you value for return. When we go to buy things, we want the most value for money, but putting time and putting energy into making sure that you keep in touch with people and making people and experiences with those people your priority, the return is endless. It is so ongoing, because people give back what they feel when you put in the effort. When people see you putting in the effort, when bosses see you putting in the effort, that's why the best bosses are the ones that you work hard for, because they work hard for you. They give you the time off when you need for your family, and that's why you go in and do the extra shift for them. The mates that are there when you say, honestly, and there will be, I think, getting out of school, the biggest thing was all the statistics about mates who go through really tough times, like really difficult times, whether that's mental health, whether that's dealing with a family member who's gotten ill. You stop seeing it as a number, of statistic. You are a statistic. Like, that mate who's going through a tough time. And the mates who are on your front doorstep on the night that you say, I'm in a really tough spot, are the mates that you then turn around, and as soon as they're not great, it wouldn't matter if they were next door or across the country, you'd be in the car. Like, that's where the value is. And that's where I think we should try, or I'm trying to put my energy into making that the priority.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's sort of the whole reason we wanted to put this together, is to start to just create a bit more awareness about the fact that while high school is like incredibly important and it's like a massive part of your lives, and moving forward it's going to create incredible opportunities for you guys, it is a part of, just a small part of your bigger life. And the way that things are going in school are not necessarily a reflection of you as a person, but more so just how everything else is going as well. And as you said, people are going through, struggles with mental health or having challenges with families as well. And so it's important to always put whatever we're doing at school into perspective, so that, because it fits into the larger picture, it's not the be all end all of who we are.
And I think you find yourself going, I've got issues, I've got problems, I've got things that are difficult for me, and the more you come to realize that you're not the outlier, and that you're not even part of the majority. Everyone will have something going on that they're trying to deal with and they're trying to work through, and the more that you can be aware of that, and thinking about, I always thought the best analogy for it was, if you had 10 people and everyone thought about themselves as one person thinking about themselves. If you have 10 people and everyone's thinking about everyone else, and you're trying to look out for those other people, that's 9 people who are thinking about you. That's 9 people who care about your welfare. And it creates a network that holds each other up so much more. Yeah, so much more.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's something we really wanted to convey today, just because we know that, and we went through it, we know the pressures and the challenges that come out of being a high schooler. And looking back, I feel like the challenges are just becoming more and more complex. But I think for us, looking back, it was the simplest of things the little memories, those conversations that you spoke about in the corridor, that are the things that stay with us now, not so much the things that we put all the pressure and the effort into trying to do perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. And the little things really do become the big things, you know, the message that says how you going, just a little message that comes through that says, hey mate, how you going? And it takes no time at all. It feels just as good to send out to a mate and to feel that you're putting the effort in as it does to the person who gets it. I get equal amounts of enjoyment and value out of cherishing those little things.
Yeah, exactly. And not to say that the other things aren't important. They're all incredibly important. They all make up the bigger picture that is your education. But looking back on it now, these are the things that really stick with us. And so we really wanted to share that today, just to sort of get the ball rolling on a few things that we've learnt, and to give you guys a bit of an insight from people who have finished school or not that long ago, but have had a bit of an opportunity to look back and get a little bit more perspective. So Matt, thank you very much for having a bit of a chat. I know it's now hard for us to
go
keep
on
talking,
and on, yeah,
on and on. But I think people can really benefit from hearing from people who have been through it and have developed a different perspective, have had things work and not work, but are happy with where they're at now, and looking back can see how that journey has influenced who they are today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks very much for having me on, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Anytime. If you guys are interested in hearing about any of the specifics to do with high school transitioning into university or other walks of life, be sure to put it in the comments below. Until next time, this is Think TLT, and we'll see you next week.